ExamPrep.School, Indiana Surplus Lines Insurance Exam. There are 5 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Insurance regulation. Surplus lines. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. According to Indiana insurance statutes, which of the following is a direct enforcement power granted to the Commissioner? A. Negotiating settlement terms between insurers and policyholders. B. Promulgating regulations necessary to implement insurance statutes. C. Certifying self-insured employer groups for workers' compensation. D. Licensing rating organizations operating within the state. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is promulgating regulations because Indiana Code empowers the Commissioner to adopt rules and regulations to enforce the insurance laws. Reason A is not correct. Negotiating settlement terms is a dispute resolution function, not an enforcement power. Reason C is not correct. Certifying self-insurance groups is an administrative approval task, not enforcement of statutes. Reason D is not correct. Licensing rating organizations is regulatory oversight, but distinct from enforcement of insurance statutes. Question 2. Under Indiana insurance law, when the Commissioner issues a cease and desist order upon finding an unfair or deceptive act, that order takes effect immediately, and the affected party is entitled to a hearing within how many days of service? A. 10 days. B. 20 days. C. 45 days. D. 30 days. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is 30 days because Indiana Code requires the Commissioner to hold a hearing on a cease and desist order within 30 days after service. Reason A is not correct. 10 days is shorter than the statutory hearing period and not supported by Indiana law. Reason B is not correct. 20 days does not match the specific time frame required by statute. Reason C is not correct. 45 days exceeds the maximum period allowed for scheduling the hearing. Question 3. Pursuant to Indiana Code, the Commissioner may impose an administrative fine for each violation of the insurance laws. What is the maximum fine allowed per violation? A. $500. B. $1,000. C. $5,000. D. $10,000. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is $1,000 because Indiana law caps each administrative penalty at $1,000 per violation. Reason A is not correct. $500 is below the statutory maximum for administrative penalties. Reason C is not correct. $5,000 exceeds the per violation cap set by Indiana Code. Reason D is not correct. $10,000 is far above the maximum penalty authorized by statute. Question 4. Indiana insurance law authorizes the Commissioner to suspend or revoke a producer's license on certain grounds. Which of the following is specifically recognized as statutory grounds for license revocation? A. Conviction of any felony regardless of relation to insurance. B. Conviction of a financial-related felony arising from an insurance transaction. C. Conviction of a misdemeanor involving moral turpitude. D. Failure to report a change of business address within 30 days. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is the financial-related felony arising from an insurance transaction because Indiana Code lists that type of conviction as grounds for revocation. Reason A is not correct. General felonies not related to insurance are not automatically grounds for revocation. Reason C is not correct. Misdemeanors, even with moral turpitude, are not enumerated as revocation grounds. Reason D is not correct. Address change reporting is an administrative requirement but not a ground for revocation. Question 5. Under Indiana Code, the Commissioner may initiate an investigation into alleged violations of insurance laws within how many years after the act forming the basis of the complaint? A. 1 year. B. 2 years. C. 5 years. D. 3 years. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is 3 years because Indiana law provides a 3-year limitation period for initiating investigations of insurance law violations. Reason A is not correct. 1 year is shorter than the statutory limitation period. Reason B is not correct. 2 years does not align with the 3-year limitation set by statute. Reason C is not correct. 5 years exceeds the allotted time frame for starting investigations. Question 6. Under Indiana insurance statutes, the Commissioner's subpoena power allows issuance of a subpoena for testimony or documents. Subpoenas must be served at least how many days before the date specified for compliance? A. 5 days. B. 10 days. C. 15 days. D. 30 days. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is 10 days because Indiana Code mandates a minimum of 10 days service before compliance with a subpoena. Reason A is not correct. 5 days is shorter than the minimum service period required by statute. Reason C is not correct. 15 days exceeds the minimum period but is not the statutory requirement. Reason D is not correct. 30 days is longer than required and not specified as the minimum period. Question 7. An insurance company under IDOI investigation requests access to the department's investigative file regarding potential unfair claim practices. Under IDOI regulations, which statement best describes the confidentiality of these investigative materials? A. Investigative materials automatically become public record after 60 days and may be disclosed upon written request. B. Investigative files are confidential and may only be disclosed by court order or with the Commissioner's permission. C. Respondents may inspect and copy investigative files at any time without prior approval. D. The Department may freely share investigative materials with other regulatory agencies without restrictions. The correct answer is B. This option is correct because IDOI investigative files are privileged and remain confidential, only releasable by court order or with express Commissioner authorization. Reason A is not correct. Investigative materials do not become public after a set period. They remain confidential unless legally released. Reason C is not correct. Respondents cannot inspect or copy investigative files without formal authorization or court order. Reason D is not correct. Sharing with other agencies requires Commissioner approval or legal order. It is not unrestricted. Question 8. A licensed surplus lines producer receives written notice from the IDOI scheduling an administrative hearing regarding alleged licensing violations delivered by certified mail. According to IDOI hearing notice requirements, which element must this notice contain to comply with regulations? A. Notice must state the time, place, and general purpose of the hearing and cite the governing statutory authority. B. Notice must be sent at least 5 days before the hearing and include a complete transcript of all prior testimony. C. Notice may be delivered orally or by telephone if it is documented in the department's official file. D. Notice must list the names and addresses of all witnesses expected to appear and testify at the hearing. The correct answer is A. This option is correct because IDOI regulations require a written notice specifying the hearing's time, place, purpose, and the legal authority under which it is held. Reason B is not correct. Regulations require at least 20 days' notice and do not mandate pre-hearing transcripts. Reason C is not correct. Oral or telephone notice is not acceptable. Written notice by mail or personal service is required. Reason D is not correct. Including witness lists is not a mandated element of the initial hearing notice. Question 9. Under Indiana insurance law, which of the following individuals is not classified as an insurance producer? A. A person who solicits applications for insurance. B. An individual who negotiates insurance contracts. C. A person who adjusts or settles claims on behalf of an insurer. D. A person who binds coverage for an insurer. The correct answer is C. Adjusters are separately regulated under Indiana law and are not considered insurance producers, whereas soliciting, negotiating, and binding coverage are producer activities. Reason A is not correct. Soliciting insurance applications is a core function of an insurance producer. Reason B is not correct. Negotiating insurance contracts is explicitly defined as a producer activity. Reason D is not correct. Binding coverage for an insurer is one of the statutory duties of a producer. Question 10. Under Indiana law, which requirement applies specifically to a business entity seeking licensure as an insurance producer? A. The entity must be a resident of Indiana. B. All shareholders must hold individual producer licenses. C. The entity must designate at least one licensed individual producer responsible for its insurance transactions. D. The entity must obtain a separate certificate of authority from the state for each line of authority. The correct answer is C. Indiana statutes require business entities to designate at least one individual producer who is licensed and responsible for the entity's insurance activities. Other options are not mandated. Reason A is not correct. Residency is not a prerequisite for an entity to hold an Indiana producer license. Reason B is not correct. Shareholders do not each need individual licenses. Only a designated producer is required. Reason D is not correct. One entity license can cover multiple lines once a responsible producer is designated. Question 11. Under Indiana insurance law, which of the following is a mandatory eligibility criterion for an individual applying for a producer license? A. Being at least 21 years of age. B. Holding a 4-year degree in a business-related field. C. Maintaining a place of business within the state. D. Demonstrating good moral character and financial responsibility. The correct answer is D. Applicants must demonstrate good moral character and financial responsibility. Indiana law sets the minimum age at 18 and does not require a degree or a specific business location. Reason A is not correct. Indiana's minimum age requirement is 18, not 21. Reason B is not correct. No academic degree is required for producer licensure under Indiana law. Reason C is not correct. A specific business address is not a statutory eligibility criterion. Question 12. Under Indiana insurance licensing regulations, a willful misstatement of a material fact on a producer license application may result in which of the following administrative actions? A. Issuance of a written warning without further penalty. B. Assessment of a civil penalty not to exceed $25,000. C. Immediate suspension of any existing producer licenses held by the applicant. D. Denial or revocation of the producer license application. The correct answer is D. Indiana law authorizes the department to deny or revoke a license application for material misstatements. Other sanctions like warnings or suspension alone are not the prescribed remedy. Reason A is not correct. A simple warning is not the statutorily required sanction for material misstatements. Reason B is not correct. Civil penalties may be imposed elsewhere, but denial or revocation is the primary remedy for misstatements. Reason C is not correct. Suspension without revocation is not the initial action for a material misstatement. Question 13. A producer licensed in Indiana with a personal lines authority is permitted to sell which of the following policies? A. A homeowner's policy for an individual's primary residence. B. Commercial general liability insurance for a small business. C. Medical malpractice coverage for a healthcare provider. D. A commercial auto policy for a delivery fleet. The correct answer is A. Personal lines authority in Indiana covers individual property and casualty products such as homeowners policies for personal residences. Commercial and professional coverages require full P&C authority. Reason B is not correct. Commercial liability requires full casualty line authority, not personal lines. Reason C is not correct. Medical malpractice is a specialty professional liability outside personal lines. Reason D is not correct. Commercial auto for business fleets requires a full property and casualty license. Question 14. What is the minimum passing score required on an initial insurance producer exam in Indiana? A. 60%. B. 75%. C. 70%. D. 80%. The correct answer is C. Indiana law sets the passing score for producer licensing exams at a minimum of 70%. Other percentages do not meet the statutory requirement. Reason A is not correct. A 60% score is below the statutory minimum required to pass. Reason B is not correct. Indiana statutes do not specify a 75% passing score. Reason D is not correct. An 80% score exceeds but is not required by Indiana law. Question 15. In Indiana, how does an applicant schedule a producer licensing examination? A. By submitting a request directly to the Indiana Department of Insurance. B. By contacting any state-approved testing center without prior registration. C. Via a written application sent by mail to the insurance company sponsoring the applicant. D. Through an approved testing vendor designated by the department. The correct answer is D. Candidates must schedule producer exams through the department's approved vendor. The department itself does not take exam appointments, and walk-in scheduling is not permitted. Reason A is not correct. The department only approves vendors and does not handle individual scheduling. Reason B is not correct. Registration with the vendor is mandatory, walk-in testing is not allowed. Reason C is not correct. Sponsoring companies cannot schedule exams on behalf of applicants. Question 16. Under Indiana insurance regulations, if a candidate fails a producer examination on the second attempt, what is the mandatory waiting period before they can retake the same exam? A. 14 days. B. 7 days. C. 30 days. D. No waiting period. The correct answer is A. Indiana law requires a 14-day waiting period after a second failed attempt before a candidate may retake the same producer exam. Shorter or no waits are not permissible. Reason B is not correct. A 7-day interval is not prescribed for a second failure under Indiana rules. Reason C is not correct. A 30-day wait applies only after a certain number of attempts beyond the second. Reason D is not correct. A mandatory waiting period is enforced for the second failure. Question 17. What is the non-refundable application fee for an initial insurance producer license in Indiana? A. $25. B. $75. C. $50. D. $100. The correct answer is C. Indiana sets the non-refundable fee for an initial producer license application at $50. Other amounts do not match the statutory fee schedule. Reason A is not correct. A $25 fee does not correspond to the state's initial licensure charge. Reason B is not correct. Indiana law does not require a $75 fee for initial license applications. Reason D is not correct. A $100 fee exceeds the statutory requirement for initial applications. Question 18. Under Indiana law, what is the required fee to reinstate a lapsed producer license within 12 months of its expiration? A. $100. B. $50. C. $75. D. $25. The correct answer is D. Indiana allows reinstatement of a lapsed license within 1 year for a $25 fee, provided the renewal application is filed before the 12-month deadline. Reason A is not correct. No $100 reinstatement fee is imposed under Indiana regulations. Reason B is not correct. A $50 fee applies to routine renewal, not reinstatement. Reason C is not correct. A $75 fee is not the statutory fee for reinstating a lapsed license. Question 19. A producer licensed in Indiana misplaces their original producer license and needs a replacement. According to Indiana Department of Insurance regulations, what is the proper process to obtain a duplicate license? A. Submit a notarized affidavit of loss along with the duplicate license fee by mail to the IDOI. B. Complete a full new producer license application and pay the original licensing fee. C. File an online request for a duplicate license through the licensing portal and pay the duplicate license fee. D. Request a certificate of license status from the insurer of record to serve as a replacement. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is to request a duplicate license through the state's online licensing portal and pay the prescribed duplicate license fee. Indiana regulations streamline replacements via the portal rather than requiring a full new application or insurer-issued documents. Reason A is not correct. Notarized affidavits are not required. The online portal request is sufficient and preferred. Reason B is not correct. A full new application and full fee are unnecessary for a duplicate. Only the duplicate fee applies. Reason D is not correct. Insurers do not issue certificate substitutes for lost licenses. The state portal handles duplications. Question 20. After legally changing her surname due to marriage, an Indiana licensed producer must update her name on her producer license. Under Indiana Department of Insurance rules, what must she do to comply? A. Submit a certified copy of her marriage certificate with no fee within 10 days. B. Notify the National Insurance Producer Registry and pay a name change fee within 60 days. C. Update her new name with every insurer she represents and keep copies for department review. D. Notify the IDOI in writing within 30 days and include supporting legal documentation. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is to notify the department in writing within 30 days of the name change and furnish supporting legal documents. Indiana rules require direct notification to the IDOI rather than relying solely on insurers or national registries. Reason A is not correct. Indiana allows 30 days rather than 10, and fees may apply for document processing. Reason B is not correct. Notification must go directly to the State Department, and no 60-day NIPR process is specified. Reason C is not correct. Notifying insurers alone is insufficient. The department itself must be informed. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below. We read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.